Hello and welcome back to the Master Division of the International Championship. I was able to start into the season with 2 wins, which I'm quite happy about. And now the next game will be a 4-player game against PV4, AaronGreen and Bram. And this game could already be quite important because all of those 3 players could still be contenders for the first place. And yeah, so it would be very nice to get a good result in this game. Yeah, and now without further ado, let's take a look at it. In this game I'm in the 3rd position, and let's first of all take a look at the leaders and wonders. We have Hollywood and Internet, also the Red Cross, Spaceflight is there. We have some lab and science leaders, Sid Meier's, Steve Jobs, also Marie Curie. We have Chaplin and Fleming together with the Hollywood. We have Pierre together with the Internet, Mandela together with the Red Cross and a potential colony strategy with Suez Canal. We have also Ocean Liner Service, some culture leaders, Shakespeare, Gaudi, Darwin are there. We have Nobel, Napoleon, Catherine for some military actions, James Watt to get a boost in the economy. Then we have St. Peter's Basilica, the 2 strength wonders, Great Wall, Himeji Castle. We have the Silk Road. We have also 2 military action leaders in H1, Joan of Arc and Jan Žižka. Nostradamus is there as a defensive leader. Isabella and Saladin just as some solid leaders, also Isabella for potential colony strategy. And then we have Gutenberg and Michelangelo. And AaronGreen is in the 1st position, and he takes Engineering Genius. He could also take Homer, but I think Engineering Genius is a fine pick, as long as he has no knowledge about if he gets a wonder with Homer. Then Bram takes Homer and a Ridgeland, which is quite interesting because a lot of players I think would take Hammurabi, but I think he gets the Ridgeland together with Homer, so it's a fine decision. Maybe a little bit risky because he doesn't know for sure whether he will get one of those 2 wonders, so it's a little bit risky. But yeah, he gets a leader and a yellow card, so that should be nice. At my turn, I then took Hammurabi and 1 Urban Growth. I could also just take the Roman roads, but there are still 2 nice wonders left in the deck, the Colosseum and the Pyramids, so it should be quite likely that I get one of those. Of course, Bram wants to get a wonder, AaronGreen also still wants to get a wonder, PV4 might take the Roman roads, and then I guess the Acropolis will be taken by one of those 2 players. If AaronGreen doesn't take it, then Bram will probably take it to have one wonder with Homer, unless there will be another wonder available. Yeah, but in general, I thought that it should be quite likely that I will get one of those wonders, and then I don't want to take Rome roads now. Then probably Hammurabi and Cleopatra will be taken, and Ashoka is not a nice combination with Rome roads. And the leaders that are left are Caesar, Sun Tzu, and Alexander, and I would not really be happy about any of those. Alex is not a nice combination with Rome roads, or at least I mean, the 2 yellow tokens have some interactions maybe, but I think the additional civil action that you lose with Alex plays the bigger part, so I rather wanted to go for Hammurabi and Urban Growth here. PV4 indeed takes the Rome roads and picks the Urban Growth. And Colosseum and Pyramids both come out of the deck. AaronGreen builds a mine, increases population, and interestingly grabs Alex for 2 civil actions. I don't really see why it is necessary to pick Alex for 2 and not to go for Cleo for 1, build a lab, maybe take the Acropolis to have a wonder for sure, or just wait for maybe Colossus at the next turn, which is not that bad with the Suez Canal being in the game. So I don't really see why you would pick Alex for 2 here, and also Ashoka would be an option. So yeah. I don't think I would have done it, but maybe AaronGreen values Alex more highly than I do. Then Bram also takes a wonder for 2, the Colosseum. That one is I think a little bit more understandable, but I'm also not sure if it is the correct move. But in 4-player games, 4-player games are often very military heavy, and the Colosseum most of the times I think will be quite a nice wonder. Well, the Acropolis it's not that easy to get a lot of value out of that in a 4-player game. But the Colosseum already has 1 happy face. In general, I don't like Colosseum together with Homer too much, and so maybe because of that Acropolis for 1 would be better. But Bram is willing to pay 2 civil actions for the Colosseum. That's also nice for me, because that means that Pyramids will fall down to 2 civil actions for me, so I can just grab the Pyramids with Hammurabi. Pyramids I think very strong in 4-player games, and Yeah, and with Hammurabi I have one additional civil action anyway that I could only spend to take one of those HA yellows, so picking the pyramids for one civil action more isn't that bad. I could also think about just taking Engineering Genius because there's also the Meiji Castle, but I think I don't like Meiji Castle too much as an early wonder and rather would get my economy up, so I wanted to have the pyramids for sure. PV Forest has to decide between Ashoka and Caesar in last position against a potential Colossus or Meiji Castle from AaronGreen is maybe not that ideal with the Rome roads, and Ashoka also isn't ideal with the Rome roads, but at least PV4 already has one urban growth in hand, which might make it easier for him to get value out of Ashoka. Then AaronGreen goes for Alex, builds a lab, increases population, takes the rich land, doesn't want to take the Colossus. Could be an idea with Suez Canal, but there is still the Meiji Castle, and with Caesar, Colossus, and Sun Tzu being before the Meiji Castle, it is for sure that AaronGreen will have that wonder at the next turn, and so is maybe waiting for that. Bram goes for a mayor, takes the Engineering Genius that will help him a lot with finishing the Colosseum, and then he builds one lab. And I this turn I can go for one lab, and there's one card on the card row that's very nice for me, that's the Monarchy. It's very early in the game still, I have Hammurabi, so my goal was to prepare a revolution for the next turn, and before the revolution I want to get more production up, so I build one lab with the urban growth, increase my population, then take the Monarchy and the Frugality with my last civil action. And depending on the developments that are opened, I can just go for a monarchy revolution at the next turn, finish the pyramids at the turn after that, and it should leave me in quite a strong position. Also drawing one colonization card is nice. BB4 grabs the cartography, grabs the bread and circuses, so he will get a full Ashoka bonus. On the other hand, those are two cards that Mima does not really need, so it's quite costly for him to grab those with the Rome roads, but at least he gets this Ashoka bonus quite cheaply, and then he builds 2 stages of the Rome roads, so he probably will be able to finish the Rome roads at the next turn. AaronGreen will use Alex, and it's very nice for him to get immediate replacement with Jan Žižka. Also this turn he takes the Meiji Castle and the irrigation, so lots of cards are taken, and AaronGreen also already has the tactic for Jan Žižka and reveals the Legion. Bram seeds and the development of religion is opened, but he has no free population. I have one, so that's nice for me. And then Bram goes for the Colosseum, will finish this with the Engineering Genius. Then he has one civil action left. He could take Joan of Arc to have an immediate replacement for Homer, but another important card is the Knights, and so he goes for them. Then this turn there was no development revealed that would cause corruption or something like this. So I can just go for the revolution, then I have one free civil action. I could just build one step of the pyramids, but I think it's quite nice to get Joan of Arc here. I already have my 3rd military action, so that part is maybe not that needed of Joan of Arc, but it's still nice to have more than 3 military actions. And I already have gotten a free religion, and looking at the top event is always nice. And I get her now for one civil action, while I don't know when I get one of the other leaders. I mean, Nostradamus could be strong, Saladin, maybe even Gutenberg, so there would be some other ones, but I get Joan of Arc for one civil action now, and with having her in hand I can just go for her as soon as I want to and keep Hammurabi for a little longer. PV4 can finish the Rome roads this turn, grabs the swordsman and increases population to get out of corruption. Yeah, it's definitely nice to get a military technology for one. Also will serve as another color for Ashoka, and then maybe he can finally build the 2nd lab at the next turn, because he delayed his science production quite a bit. And with Ashoka Rome roads he has really a lot of production, so getting out of corruption won't be easy for him. AaronGreen gets the iron, and he can just go for 2 clean upgrades. That's very nice for him, especially with having the Meiji Castle. Yeah, it would not be that great for him to just start with the Meiji Castle and then go for economy, so it's very nice for him that he gets the iron. And if he would not have gotten the iron, he maybe would have gone for irrigation, so he could have done something else. But I think the iron will be very strong for him, especially because he also already has something to spend his resources on. Then Bram seeds, and the development of science is opened. And Bram interestingly grabs the St. Peter's Basilica and then increases population 2 times to get out of corruption. I'm not sure if this is the correct move. Maybe it would be better instead of grabbing the St. Peter's Basilica just to go for Isabella, get a replacement for a mayor, and yeah. And with already having 2 happy faces, the St. Peter's Basilica is maybe not that needed, and he also has not additional resource production, so it is quite costly to invest 8 rocks into the St. Peter's Basilica. So I think maybe just going for Isabella is the better move, but maybe he's also hoping for a nice Michelangelo game, or in general likes the St. Peter's Basilica very much. I see the cultural influence here. Yeah, I just want to have a little bit of knowledge about the next event. The development of politics is opened. I draw the Dark Ages into aggressions. This turn I can finish the pyramids, but I can even do it with the masonry. And I think that is quite nice for me, because there are 2 H1 wonders left, where the masonry could be quite nice, the Great Wall and the Silk Road. Especially the Silk Road could be very strong for me, with having 6 civil actions now, or even Hammurabi for the next turns. And with the masonry it will be very easy to finish the Silk Road, and it should be quite strong. So I was very happy to finish the pyramids with the masonry. And also in later stages of the game it will be useful, for example for the ocean liner service or the Suez Canal. And then I can take another frugality and 1 alchemy. I could also take another yellow card, but I think it's very nice to get this alchemy going, because with the masonry those upgrades are very cheap, and even with only having 4 resources I will be able to go for 2 alchemy upgrades at the next turn. And then I do draw Foray and Scientific Breakthrough. PV4 seeds, and even more stuff is revealed, so now we have to see how he will get out of corruption. He can build a lab, goes for Isabella. The 2 blue cubes also will be useful to get out of corruption. And also with going for Isabella now, he can pick up the Taj Mahal for free, which will be a nice way to spend his resources. And then with his last 2 civil actions he can get out of corruption. Then AaronGreen seeds as well, and the development of settlement is opened. So after development of agriculture, development of settlement, so players will have some additional populations. AaronGreen goes for the last upgrade to iron, increases population, uses the engineering genius to build 1 stage of the Meiji Castle, and then increases population again to get out of corruption. And he has few civil actions but strong production, and he does exactly the right thing, what you have to do in such a situation. Not take any, use a lot of your civil actions to grab yellow cards, but instead just doing stuff that has to be done. Bram seeds, and the development of civil life is opened. Bram used that to develop the knights, and then indeed he goes to Michelangelo. Maybe he had him in mind when he grabbed the St. Peter's Basilica. And then he increases population, builds another mine, so he won't replace Homer yet, but he has a leader in hand. And, yeah. And also with having additional happy face, he maybe can afford the 4th mine. He also went for a lot of mines in the 3-player game that you already saw of him, so maybe he's a fan of going for a lot of mines and resource production. But also to finish the wonder, the additional resources will be nice, so I think that could be a nice 4th mine for him. And then he reveals the heavy cavalry, so with Homer's resource or even without Homer's resource, he will be able to go for 2 knights at the next turn, and that will, then he will have a lot of strength, so I have to be a little bit careful about it, but there isn't sadly no military technology available for me, so there's not that much that I can do. And with Joan of Arc I at least will have some military actions, and I will get a little bit of strength for the religion, but it's a little bit dangerous for me here. I can't increase my military nicely, so I at least want to increase my economy. I can develop the alchemy, go for 1 upgrade, but instead of going for the 2nd upgrade, I rather wanted to go for Joan of Arc and build another warrior. reveal the fighting band like this, I'm the strongest, the deck has just flipped, and so I don't do my second upgrade now, but I have enough science to, for example, go for knights at the next turn, also for swordsmen, so hopefully one of those technologies will be available if Bram should go for a lot of military, and then maybe it will be help me to go for more strength. I could copy the medieval army tactic if the knights are available, so no. And then I can take some yellow cards, Rich Land, Breakthrough, and Urban Growth. And with taking all of those yellow cards, first of all, I don't have that much else to do, but I'm also looking at a Silk Road that is coming down the row. And with the Silk Road, those yellow cards might even be more valuable. But even if not, then I can use the Urban Growth to upgrade my alchemy for free, and the other cards also will be useful. And then I draw the new deposits. PV4 goes for the swordsman, use the development of civil life to develop the cartography, so maybe there are some colonies coming, and he also will be strongest after his turn after going for some swordsman, then grabs the alchemy, builds one stage of the Taj Mahal. He won't be able to go for alchemy the next turn, but at least he can get out of corruption with building the Taj Mahal. AaronGreen offers me the Open Borders Agreement. I already have quite a lot of military actions, but AaronGreen has 3 before the pact as well. I'm at 5 now, so I thought it might be useful for me, because as I said, Bram might go for some military, and then it might be nice to defend against him. And also, when I, for example, go for knights or swordsmen, then I might need some military actions at the next turns, and so the 5th military action will be nice. And as soon as I think that I don't really profit from this pact any longer, then I maybe can just cancel it at a nice moment. That's better than to reject it immediately, because then AaronGreen could just offer it to another player. And then AaronGreen finishes Simichi Castle, goes for one warrior, and then takes 2 Rich Land Frugality. It's a little bit unfortunate for him, or maybe not unfortunate, but having to take 3 yellow cards with being on 4 civil actions is a little bit problematic, but he already has upgraded his iron mines, and so it should be fine, and he gets all of those for 1, so it's not a bad deal, but maybe you would prefer, for example, just being able to do something else, but he already has done a lot for his civilization, so then he can just take those yellow cards. That's also nice for me, because it means that I definitely will be able to get iron if I want to go for it, because if Bram takes this copy, then the other copy will be available for 1. Bram this turn has to go for Michelangelo if he doesn't want to lose the happy face of Homer. Then he builds 2 stages of St. Peter's Basilica, which is quite interesting, so he doesn't go for the military pressure and even stays weakest now. Of course, when building 2 knights, then it might take a while until he can finish the St. Peter's Basilica, which is of course quite a lot of culture that he would miss out with Michelangelo, but I just thought it could be nice for him. Also, he's missed out on the 1 resource of Homer now, but he also has quite a lot of knowledge about the event deck. He seeded 3 out of the 6 events, so if all of those 3 are peaceful, then he's maybe just thinking that it might not make that big of a difference between being weakest or strongest. And then with this last civil action, he picks the iron. And also, and he won't be weakest because he will adopt a medieval army tactic. But of course it might be quite likely that I will get stronger and then he will be weakest again. This turn I see that a scientific breakthrough, which is maybe not that ideal, because all of the other players still need a government form, and I didn't really like to see any science events in, when the other players could use that to get into a government form. But I wanted to go for the Silk Road this turn, and with going for another upgrade and the Silk Road at some point, I should have some nice science production. Hopefully we'll get some science out of it, and at least it will also take quite a while. With Joan of Arc, of course, I was able to see the top event, and the top event are the Barbarians. I definitely thought about not seeding, because when I get stronger, and that's what I will do at my turn, then if PV4 seeds, AaronGreen would get hit by that, but he has some free population, so it maybe would not hurt him that much, and then I would miss out on seeding, and having some information about the event deck is definitely nice. Then I can go for the knights this turn. I actually did not use the breakthrough, because I thought I might use it later when I have the Silk Road. But I had knowledge about the Dark Ages, and I have quite a lot of yellow cards, and so maybe I should have just used it. And then I can build one knight, I can adopt a medieval army tactic, I will still draw 2 cards thanks to the Open Borders Agreement. I really wanted to have the Silk Road, that's just very cheap with the masonry and my civil actions that I have. And then the big question for my last civil action was whether I want to take the cultural heritage or the iron. The cultural heritage is just another yellow card. It would be nice with the Silk Road, even has a little bit of additional synergy because I gain 1 additional science and culture, but it's only 1 culture, so that should not be overestimated. And but still 1 additional science would be nice. And it's already quite late, so it would not be an early iron, but it still would be nice to have additional resource production. But at the end I went for the cultural heritage. And yeah, I just thought I can improve my economy some other ways with going for the Silk Road, maybe just growing even more yellow cards, extract some value out of that, and then maybe can go for one of those coals later on. And also PvP4, who is the last player that still misses the iron, is not really prepared for it, prepared to go for it. He has a lot of to do, probably doesn't want to go for iron before he has increased his science production, so it would not be a problem for me if he decides to take this copy of iron. And then I draw the Legion and the defense card. PvP4 opens the Immigration, which is a nice event for Bram. And then he can finish the Taj Mahal, get some additional culture reduction, takes the iron, copies the Legion tactic to be strongest, and now it's still in H1, so we'll draw more cards in H2, and he also takes the knights. AaronGreen seeds, and a cultural influence is revealed, and yeah, that doesn't change too much. PvP4 and AaronGreen gain a little bit more culture out of it. AaronGreen goes for a 3rd farm, and yeah, this way he can use his rich lands but still gets out of corruption. And just in general with having irrigation, it's often not a bad idea to go for a 3rd farm. And then he also goes for Swordsman to go up to 8 strength and yeah, just be able to go for more strength in the future turns. Bram seeds even though he's weakest, and the developed territory is revealed. I was willing to send 1 knight into 2 colonization cards, but it isn't enough, and Bram is able to win it for 1 knight and 2 colonization cards. Then he rebuilds the knight, still has the 1 resource that he needs to finish the St. Peter's Basilica. Has a lot of science, wants to invest the science and goes for Code of Laws, and then also takes the reserves. Interestingly over the breakthrough, but the reserves will be nice because he is stuck at 3 food and it will help him to get another population out. This turn I used the opportunity to cancel the Open Borders Agreement. It still could have some nice value for me just to keep more cards in hand, but I will not use that many military actions at the next turn. I just thought AaronGreen is getting a lot more out of it, and so I cancelled this now. And also I really didn't want to push this turn because the event on top is the Rebellion. So yeah, I definitely had to do something about it, and one nice way to fix this problem is to go for the theology, but I had to play this turn a little bit awkward because there's also a coal coming down the row, and I really would like to be able to go for the 1 coal at the next turn. But first of all I wanted to fix my happy faces, and also the theology will help me to get stronger. So I went for the theology, developed it, then built 1 stage of the Silk Road because I didn't want to get this bonus for the breakthrough. Still wanted to use the breakthrough because otherwise I don't have enough science for the coal at the next turn. And then I will use the bonus of the Silk Road for the urban growth so that I just have enough resources to build 1 theology that prepares me for the rebellion and also makes me the strongest, so that's very nice. And then I have 2 civil actions left, and I can take the breakthrough, just another yellow card, has quite a lot of value with the Silk Road. I could also increase my population because I don't have knowledge about reds, and it could be a little bit bad if I should lose 1 population basically when the reds are revealed. But a breakthrough is quite nice, and then with my last civil action I can't increase my population, at least if I want to leave myself open for the coal. And I have to use the cultural heritage, so I use a lot of yellow cards now, which is maybe not ideal, but I can't use the cultural heritage at the next turn, which is quite interesting, because if I would use it at the next turn, then I would not be able to go into coal without it, and then I would get a Silk Road bonus for this card, and it would not leave me with enough resource for one upgrade, but like this I have enough science to go for coal, and thanks to the Silk Road and the Rich Land I can go for one upgrade immediately. So I thought it should be quite important to be prepared for this coal at the next turn. It's not for sure though that I will get it, because Bram has not developed the iron yet, and he might just go for coal instead. But it might stay in 2 for him. He's not able to go for an upgrade unless he used the reserves, so I still had some hope that I will get a coal, and it just would be a shame if the coal is available and I'm not prepared to go for it, so I did focus my turn a little bit towards this goal. Then I draw the Hussars. That could be a nice tactic, and definitely nice to have a tactic already available. A war also could be an idea, and a Cold War is another event that I could potentially play. BV4 goes for Alchemy, doesn't push, the Rebellion is on top, but he also doesn't fix his Happy Face at this turn. But he has now some nice science production, so that might help him with upgrading his economy even more at future turns. AaronGreen goes for the Great Wall. He has some swordsmen, probably will build more of those, builds one now, and already we can see that maybe the Open Borders Agreement would have probably been quite nice for him. Now he already missed out on one card draw, so I think it was the correct move to cancel it, even though I also lost a little bit of value. And then he goes for another upgrade and has strong resource, strong food production, but there's not a lot of science, no government form, and that's not ideal because of course you need science for the government form, so it might not be that easy for him to go for all of this. Maybe if he goes for scientific methods first, then it will be it will be a very relatively nicely possible for him to do this very quickly in the next turns, but yeah, having low science and still needing a government form is not the best position to be in, but at least all of the other aspects he's very nicely covered, has the military lead, so he definitely has a lot of things going for him. And a coal stays on 2, so I have some hope that that might fall into my hand at the next turn. And also the Rebellion is revealed now, and 2 of the other players get hit by that. Both of them still are at 4 civil actions, so that's very nice and hurts my opponents quite a bit. Bram uses Michelangelo to grab the Kremlin, then builds one knight, builds another warrior to get stronger, takes the rich land, and then he goes for Napoleon, interestingly, gives up the cultural production of Michelangelo. In 4-player games, the early cultural production indeed isn't that important, and Napoleon will increase his strength even more and make him the strongest now. And then he also develops the iron, he can't really do anything else, and at the next turn he can start upgrading his iron production. That means that a coal indeed will be available for me, so that is of course one thing that I definitely want to do at my turn. I see the new deposits in, the knowledge of the ancients is on top, and yeah, I will go for coal this turn. It might be revealed before I can do my second upgrade, which would be a little bit awkward, but at least if that should be the case, then I can go for the third upgrade quicker. It also is quite likely that it will not be revealed before my second upgrade, and then I should get the most out of this. I just think that I have a lot of ways how I can spend my resources, have a lot of civil actions, so I wanted to have this event in the deck. And then I can go for coal. I can even use the breakthrough with the Silk Road bonus because of the knowledge of the ancients and the one additional resource that I have gotten from that. So I can still upgrade one coal. I definitely want to have the cannons. I have no tactic yet, but it's just very important to have those military technologies available. And then I can also grab the fission upgrade for the next upgrade of my mines to coal. And with the Silk Road, it will be very cheap, and it is even possible for me to do an upgrade, increase my population, build another knight. So that could be a potential turn at the next turn. Then I do draw the vast territory and the international negotiations. PV4 goes for iron now after he was able to upgrade his science production and can only do one upgrade because he has only 2 civil actions because of the rebellion. And then AaronGreen sacrifices one of his swordsmen to go for a spy against PV4. PV4 only has 2 military actions, and with 14 strength he would need 2 defense cards to defend, which is not quite likely. No, I think PV4 had the option to upgrade one of his warriors to swordsman at the last turn. It seems a little bit like a mistake. Maybe he has no colonization card, but it definitely makes it look more likely that he can defend with having 1H. Oh, actually, I'm wrong here. He could defend with 1H1 and 1H2 colonization card, so maybe it doesn't make that big of a difference. Maybe the hope that he might actually draw a defense card is now more important. So, yeah. Um, could still be an idea, but it's definitely not that wrong. Maybe I think no, he had not enough resources to also maybe build another swordsman. Yeah, but he was not prepared for this aggression. Maybe he didn't thought that the opponent would try an aggression or that AaronGreen would sacrifice the swordsman for an aggression. But sacrificing the swordsman is actually not that costly for him, because without sacrificing it, he would have big troubles with getting out of corruption, because he would have 2 unhappy workers after increasing population. After one population went back to the yellow bank, he has no one happy worker and can just rebuild a swordsman and get out of corruption like this. And with the last civil action he can go for the scientific method, and then maybe he can upgrade the science production at the next turn. And if he then after that gets the government form, he might have a strong position with also potentially getting the Great Wall at some point. Unfortunately for PV4, Bram of course knows now that PV4 can't defend against a player who has 14 strength, and he also goes for an aggression, a blunder, so PV4 gets hit by spy and a blunder, and it's definitely a very big setback for him and quite unfortunate. And then Bram increases population, upgrades one of his mines, and then takes the cannons and the rifleman. He wants to have both of those military technologies. Now he has all of the technologies he needs, and maybe can then upgrade the next mines at the following turn. This turn I wanted to seed again. I didn't really want to see the vast territory, because on top there's actually the vast territory 1, and I thought that I might have chances to win it. I was willing to send an army, because as I said, I can upgrade 1 mine and still build 1 knight, so if I send an army I have still 1 warrior left, and at least I could get 1 army back. Could be a little bit dangerous, and I am not sure if I was willing to send all of my colonization cards, but I definitely was willing to send an army, or maybe 1 knight in all of my colonization cards. And yeah, and I thought it might be quite likely that I will be able to win it. It's also nice to open it at my turn when I win the tie breaks, and when I can immediately rebuild my military. And with being quite likely to win the colony, then having 1 colony in hand could be quite nice for a potential Suez Canal later on. So I didn't want to push this and push the international negotiations instead. Vast territory is revealed, and indeed I'm able to win it, and even for only just 1 warrior. And yeah, I could send a knight as well to save 1 colonization card, but I wanted to go up to 10 strength, and because then I can defend for sure, so I rather wanted to send a warrior away. Getting this vast territory definitely is very nice for me. I can go for 1 more upgrade, have a lot of resource production now, increase my population, go for another knight, going up to 10 strength, being able to definitely defend against Bram and AaronGreen, and then I can increase my population again to get out of corruption, have 2 civil actions left, and I use those civil actions to corrupt the frugality, and a breakthrough with having a nice yellow bank. The frugality should be quite nice to get another population out. With the Silk Road it is 4 food, so I can use it to increase my population once I have 3 food, and then get another one immediately. And when I pick the reserves, then I don't really know what I want to do with my last civil action, so instead I just picked a breakthrough for 2, because I might still need some science. And I draw even more colonies, so if maybe I will be able to get this navigation, and I could even maybe seed all of those. And if I might get a Suez Canal, then I even can choose from some different colonies. PV4 takes Nobel, has now even more science production. I was not too happy to see this, because the scientific breakthrough that I played earlier is still in the deck, and that would be a lot more value for PV4 at the moment than for me. And then he also takes the reserves, develops the Britain circuses to use his last civil action and then upgrades one of his warriors. And now he still has one H1 card in hand, so probably that is a colonization card. And now he should be able to defend against aggressions from AaronGreen or Bram. And Green also increases his science production. Of course, I also was not happy to see this. And then he can upgrade 2 times, will have enough science to go for a government farm at the next turn, and grabs the cavalryman to have this military technology available. Then Bram seeds and the inhabited territory is open. I think I was willing to send an army, yes, but I'm not able to win it. AaronGreen wins it for 1 swordsman, so that's definitely not bad for him, but at least it will make him weaker, so I'm not the weakest at my turn. Bram plays the reserves, I think, for resources, and then is able to finish the Gremlin. Takes the selective breeding and the scientific method, so he wants to upgrade all of his economy, but still delays his upgrades to mines. Also, he would have enough science to go for Republic or Conmon, but maybe then he would be very low in science, and maybe he didn't like that. This turn I pushed the Ravages of Time in. The Crusades is revealed, and at the moment I'm not the weakest, so I wanted to get this out of the way. And also the Ravages of Time should be nice. I mean, losing the pyramids might hurt me because I have not the most civil actions, but PV4 will lose the Rome Roads, which hurts him a little bit. AaronGreen will lose either Himeji Castle or the Great Wall, probably the Himeji Castle, so that would hurt him. And Bram has the Colosseum with the St. Peter's Basilica, so for him it's basically like losing the Hanging Gardens. So I thought this Ravages of Time might do more damage to my opponents than to me. This turn I could have some different options. I could go for food production, I can finish my wonder, but the thing that I thought should be the strongest is to finish the Silk Road and then to just take the Suez Canal with my remaining 4 civil actions. I have some nice colonies, especially the inhabited territory, so with the Suez Canal I can boost my resource production even more and have a really nice yellow bank. And while I don't take the selective breeding for 1, PV4 will very likely take this. Green has already 3 irrigations, really not a lot of civil actions, so I thought it should be very likely that he will hate draft it, and Bram already has a copy, so it should be quite likely that a copy of selective breeding should be available at 1 civil action at my next turn. So yeah, I was happy to take the Suez Canal if one of those events is the new deposits, and if the new deposits are revealed, then I will be able to finish the Suez Canal at the next turn. If not, I can do it at the turn after that. And also with taking none of those cards, James Watt might be available at my next turn. And he is maybe not an ideal leader, but if I get him together with the selective breeding, I might still get some value out of him. And then I play the Hussars to use my military actions to keep all of those colonies in hand, and other players are not really prepared to go for Hussars. I mean, Bram maybe a little bit, but also not that nicely, and other players are on Swordsman. So I can just use this to increase my strength, because PV4 might not increase his strength, and then if AaronGreen increases strength to more than 12, which is quite likely, then I could be weakest at Bram's turn. Could still be the case if PV4 increases strength, but at least, yeah, it might be that I will not be the weakest. The scientific breakthrough is revealed. That's a very nice event for PV4, because that will allow him to go for a government farm this turn, and he goes for constitutional monarchy, grabs the selective breeding, upgrades one of his mines, and grabs the cavalryman. Also, AaronGreen was able to get a lot of science out of the scientific breakthrough. He also goes for the Conmon, develops the Conmon, increases population, builds another swordsman, increases population again to get out of corruption, and then grabs the organized religion for his happy face solution. Also goes for another swordsman, so he is now at 14 strength. Bram offers me the scientific cooperation this turn, and I actually accepted this quite happily, because not only have a little bit more science available than him and also bigger science production, also have the breakthrough together with the Silk Road. And not only that, but also there will be some technologies that I will want to develop in the near future, the cannons, if the justice system is still available, which should be quite likely unless Bram Hates drafts it, and a selective breeding, so 3 technologies which I want to go for in the near future, and I have a lot of science, so I was definitely willing to accept this, but it's also a nice pact for Bram because this enables him to go for Republic and for scientific method, something he couldn't do if without a pact. And then he grabs an efficient upgrade, a strategy, and upgrades one of his mines. And he has now a lot of civil actions and has the selective breeding in hand, so he might get a very strong position with a strong economy and a lot of civil actions. And when you take a look at the culture, that is very, very close still. All of us 3 will still get a production, so we are basically even. All of the players are basically even in strength and in culture, so a very close game to this point. And then at my turn, I didn't want to seed one of those colonies. Sadly, the new deposits is not revealed and is also not on top. If it would be on top, then I definitely would think about seeding one of those colonies in, and I could still do it. But on top is the good harvest, and I actually will go for 1 food upgrade, and I thought that I might get some additional value out of that. I have the scientific corporations. Of course I want to use it, so I can go for the justice system with the breakthrough. I also need a new leader. What was discarded, and the last one in the deck would be Catherine. Gaudi is available for 1. Those journalisms and opera probably will be gone, but there's another copy of journalism, so that's one thing that I could use him for. And I just thought for 1 that should be nice. And then before going for him, I want to use 1 military action of John. And I also can use the Scientific Cooperation Pact to develop the cannons. After using my military action, I can elect Gaudi, and then I can also go for selective breeding and upgrade once, preparing for the good harvest, developing my 3rd technology with the pact, so I definitely have got quite a lot of value out of it already. And yeah, I have not enough resource to finish the Suez Canal the next turn. However, after the good harvest there will be the new deposits, and I am definitely able to see it, or not even for sure, because I will only keep 1 colony, the card and the tactic, so if I don't draw another event then I actually might not be able to push, but I was hoping that the new deposits will be out of the deck. Of course it might tell the other players that the new deposits is in there, because I definitely would prepare myself to finish the Suez Canal at the next turn if there would be no new deposits. So it might give my opponents some information, but still I wanted to go for all of the things that I did at this turn. Sadly, I will be the weakest after my turn, but I know that the next 2 events are no strength events, so I'm fine about being weakest for a little while. And if I should get this last copy of Rifleman, then with the Napoleonic army, then I could even go for, if the new deposits are revealed, for Suez Canal and for 1 upgrade from Warrior to Rifleman, reveal the tactic, and then I hopefully won't be weakest after my next turn. Also, I do draw some events, the strategic territory and the politics of strength. PV4 seeds and the good harvest is revealed. And then PV4 goes for the code of laws, grabs the cannons, upgrades the last of his mines, builds 1 bread and circus, increases population and takes the urban growth. So I'm still the weakest. AaronGreen also pushes, and the new deposits are revealed now, so I can finish the Suez Canal at my next turn. AaronGreen goes for the architectures. He can just finish the Great Wall yet, and he still wants to do this, goes for the architecture, finishes the Great Wall, but then he can't get out of corruption, or maybe he could, but he doesn't want to invest. No, even if he builds 2 more swordsmen, he would not be able to get out of corruption. Even if it would get him out of corruption, then it's not necessarily the best thing to do to invest even more workers into swordsmen. Then H3 begins. Bram seeds, and actually all of the players seeded, so sadly the international negotiations that I played is already revealed, so that that's maybe a little bit unfortunate, and Bram can take something away from me. He decides to let me pay science. That definitely makes sense for him, because we have a scientific cooperation pact, and AaronGreen also has a lot of science, so it might not be that helpful for him. Then Bram goes for another upgrade to scientific method, also goes for selective breeding. And then he can also upgrade one of his mines, has a very strong economy now, has tons of civil actions, and interestingly takes the patriotism over the wave of nationalism, but probably would not have a way to spend his last civil action, maybe thought a military action might be more valuable than potentially getting more resources. Yeah, so I think Bram probably has quite a strong position here, because he will be able to do a lot of stuff with having 9 civil actions. And after losing some science and after not wanting to develop anything at this turn, I chose to to cancel the Scientific Cooperation Pact now. And in this turn I can finish the Suez Canal, and the big question I had to ask myself is if I want to go for the inhabited territory or for the strategic territory with the Suez Canal. The inhabited territory is of course very strong, getting to a population for free without using civil actions for it, improving my yellow bank even more, which could be nice with me only having theologies as a happy face solution. But of course the strategic territory also has some merit. Stage 3 has just started, and I have drawing 5 H3 cards is very valuable. The additional strength might help me to not be weakest, and yeah. And also, and that was probably the reason, the main reason for my final decision, even without inhabited territory, my population is looking quite fine. If I do one upgrade to theology, which I can do for 1 resource, I will have 4 happy faces, and that will allow me to get 4 more population out before I will need more happy faces. And with the frugality I should be able to also do this relatively fast. So my population should be fine for the next turns, and that was the point that let me because of that I went for the strategic territory. And another reason for that is that I really wanted to draw a war, because this turn I will grab the riflemen and the air forces, and with having the Napoleonic army I besides military actions have all the necessary parts to potentially go for war. If I should draw a war, I could go for riflemen, air forces, and just prepare for a war, and that should be possible to get one war. To be able to declare one war. Of course, I would probably still need military actions. That's not that easy to get for me, because I have not the most science, and so military theory is not that easy. But I also have the Silk Road, so if I should get 1 copy of patriotism, then it also could help me quite a bit if I want to go for war. So I chose to go for the strategic territory, and now of course it is quite interesting to see what I will draw from that. And sadly I did not draw a war yet, but I also will draw 3 more cards at the end of my turn. Because the strategic territory made me stronger, I didn't want to go for 1 upgrade to Rifleman revealing the tactic yet, rather wanted to draw even more cards. But at least I have some impacts that maybe could be nice. The impact of balance should be possible to get more science and food production, and that should be a nice impact. The impact of progress is at the moment probably too swingy to play it into the deck, but of course I have the knowledge that I have this in hand and can prepare for it. The impact of government is probably not a nice impact. That will be the impact that I will discard. So no war sadly, but at least some impacts, and that's also not bad. And then I can get a rifleman, also the air forces, and I also chose to pick the wave. I could also increase my population, but I thought the wave might be quite nice, because the player before me, Bram, has tons of civil actions. It might be that I get not the most yellow cards at the following turns, and the wave should give me some resources, because the other players probably will get stronger at some point, and yeah. And if I want to go for war, then even if I maybe get only 4 or even 2 resources out of it, I still have the Silk Road. So if I don't use another yellow card, it might still be fine, and it might still help me to build some military. I had to discard quite a lot of cards. I was not willing to keep any colonization card in hand. I also wanted to keep the Napoleonic army in hand, and didn't want to reveal that to the other players, so I just kept the 2 impacts and the tactic. And sadly I still don't draw a war, so I probably have to find peaceful options. But with those impacts, impact of progress, balance, and science, it's definitely possible to find such options. PV4 goes for selective breeding, upgrades, grabs the Air Forces, Pierre and a breakthrough, but stays weakest for the moment. AaronGreen seeds and Iconoclasm is revealed, so Bram, me and PV4, we all lose our leaders, but AaronGreen, yeah, he lost the Anshishka, did not grab an H2 leader yet, so he can still go for Catherine if he wants to. And he goes for military theory, goes for Catherine, goes for cavalryman, builds one, increases population, builds another cavalryman, elects Catherine, so he still draws 3 cards, goes up to 22 strength, and he might be able to steal 1 yellow token from the other players at the next turn. And he maybe is also the one that seeded the Iconoclasm into the deck. Bram offers the military alliance to PV4, then plays the revolutionary idea, goes for rifleman, upgrades 1, plays the patriotism, upgrades another 1, he will still draw 3 cards, at 17 strength at the moment, and then takes reserves, revolutionary idea, reserves, and a military build-up. As I said, he has a lot of civil actions, he might take a lot of yellow cards, so yeah, but I think I have a good civilization to handle that problem, because I have very strong production, and I have not the most civil actions. Of course, no, I have 7 civil actions is of course quite fine, but there might be the ravages of time at some point. So I should be able to use my civil actions nicely without needing yellow cards to boost my economy. Then I seeded the impact of balance this turn. I wanted, if possible, to seed every turn to get a lot of culture for seeding, and yeah, just impact of balance should be a nice impact. National Pride is revealed, so 5 additional culture for AaronGreen. And this turn I had some options how to continue the game. Of course I just lost my leader, and there are some leaders in the card draw. There is Chaplain, there is movies, so of course one option would be to just go for Chaplain with movies. But if I go for this turn, then I will be at 8 science after my turn with 4 production, and it will take quite a while until I can go for Rifleman Air Forces, so it felt a little bit too dangerous for me. And instead I relatively quickly came to the conclusion that I want to go for computers, because also my impacts are heavily favoring this game plan with the impact of science and impact of progress in hand. The big question I had to answer then is if I want to go for an upgrade to computers this turn, that would definitely be a big boost for my economy, or if I should grab Sid Meier this turn. First I thought I might want to go for one upgrade to computers because there's Sid Meier and Marie, and I would be fine with both. PV4 already has Pierre, but if you take a look at AaronGreen's and Bram's civilization, we can see that AaronGreen would be prepared for Sid Meier and for Marie, and Bram as well. Maybe Marie would not be ideal for him, but he has no leader at the moment, so getting her early is definitely better than getting another leader later. And if I should miss out on the other 2 leaders, then there could still be Steve Jobs, but I don't know when he will be available. And at the end I came to the conclusion that I rather want to get a leader ongoing at the next turn for sure, and then having this upgrade already this turn. So I grabbed Sid Meier, used the frugality to increase my population another time, went for the rifleman, used the wave for at least 4 resources, and then built 1 cannon, built 1 rifleman, revealed a Napoleonic army tactic. I don't draw any cards, which of course isn't ideal, but I still have 2 impacts in hand, so yeah, that maybe it's not too bad. And now I'm the strongest, I won't get a yellow token, AaronGreen won't steal a yellow token from me, and I'm prepared for potential strength event that might be in the deck. At the next turn I can go for computers and Sid Meier, prepare for those impacts, get some culture production going, and also have a lot of science to go for Air Forces and potential other technologies later on. Also there's Internet and Manhattan Project and Spaceflight, all of those also work nicely with Sid Meier computers. PV4 offers the international tourism to Bram. I was not happy to see this because it is still quite early and it will generate quite a lot of culture, and PV4 went a little bit greedy with offering this pact because Bram actually has 1 more wonder and PV4 will get 1 more production out of it, so PV4 definitely will get the most out of it. Could have also offered it to AaronGreen, and then maybe it would be more likely that that AaronGreen accepts it, but maybe Bram feels confident in his position, and I think he definitely can feel confident. At the moment, the culture is still very close between all players. But Bram just has a very strong economy and maybe thinks that he might have a better position in PvP4. Maybe he just thinks that PvP4 might offer the pact to another player the next turn and doesn't want it. And it's still a nice culture that he gets out of this pack compared to me and to AaronGreen. So yeah, PvP4 went a little bit greedy with offering this pack, but also gets rewarded by it. And then he goes for PvP4, for PR. Of course, he lost Nobel, so he wants to have a new leader. And then he also goes for another arena, goes up to 13 culture production. And yeah, so that's definitely not bad. And he will maybe get a little bit of a culture lead. Then he also can develop the Air Forces builds one. Sadly, it's just not enough for him to be at equal strength with AaronGreen. So if AaronGreen wants to, he can now use Catherine to steal one yellow token from Bram and PvP4. And also PvP4 takes the patriotism. He is not the most resources, he still needs a lot of units if he wants to go for nice tactics, so I think that definitely makes sense. Otherwise he could get in big danger. Then AaronGreen increases his population, or he did use Catherine, goes for another cavalryman now, grabs Air Forces for 3, develops the military theory, and also grabs the civil service. So sadly, AaronGreen is now quite nicely prepared for the impact of progress that I have in my hand. And also he is really going a little bit into a military direction. He could still have a classic army, has a lot of H2 cards in hand, and if he has classic army then he can go probably for 2 armies and air forces, not at the next turn, but maybe the turn after that, and it should be quite a lot of strength, especially with the Magic Castle. So I was hoping that the Ravages of Time will be revealed in time, so that he will have to destroy one of his wonders at the next turn. Then Bram goes for one opera. With the St. Peter's Basilica, that will be a nice happy face solution, and also of course increases science production. He of course needs to be careful, as I said, AaronGreen is preparing for quite a lot of strength, but he also has tons of yellow cards in hand, and also he is weakest now, so he can use the military build up for 9 resources, so he can probably afford to be a little bit greedy here. And then he builds 2 cannons, goes for military, plays the revolutionary idea, does not copy the Napoleonic army yet, rather wants to draw some cards, maybe go for strategy the next turn and then copy it when he has enough military actions, and yeah, and he goes for Marie. This turn I see that the impact of science in, it's a little bit risky, but it should be very likely that I am one of the best 2 in this impact, and of course, and it's also not that unlikely that I will be the strongest. After my turn I will be the strongest, but of course it will also take a while until this will be revealed. And this turn was, after Ravages of Time is revealed, I will lose 1 civil action, but I was happy to see it, because yeah, it might hurt other players more than me. And this turn was very clear for me. I want to go for Sid Meier, I want to go for computers, I want to go for 2 upgrades, and with my last 2 civil actions I want to grab this military theory. That could be very nice to defend myself, could even leave myself open to go for war myself if I should draw one, and it's also very nice for the impact of progress. So yeah, that's just what I definitely wanted to do, and I think there are not that strong alternatives. Of course, maybe I could be a little bit greedy, grab the democracy, but there's still a second copy available, so I think the military theory is just a lot better for me. And I do draw some more impacts. Impact of Happiness might be not that nice, but could be an idea. But with having theologies and with the last copy of Pro Sports being discarded now before my next turn, or being taken before my next turn, it's probably not a nice impact, but the Impact of Wonders is a fine impact to play. PvP4 Seeds also declares the Olympic Games, the autonomous territory is revealed, and sadly PvP4 gets it for relatively cheap, but it seems that he has no colonization card, because he sends 2 swordsmen away. Maybe he also wants to make a transition, but I don't think he would send a swordsman only because of that. Maybe he wants to be able to defend against aggression, but yeah. So that maybe could be an argument, but maybe he also just doesn't have 1 colonization card. Still a nice deal, I would say, for him. He uses the autonomous territory to get some food, get some new population out, and he also can use it to make a transition into the fortifications tactic. Is a 29 strength now, so defending against aggression was definitely not a reason why he sent two swordsmen, so he probably just has no colonization card. And then he takes the reserves, and even another copy of reserves, has a lot of resources now for his military that should protect him from a potential war from AaronGreen or another player, if one of the other players should go for war. AaronGreen seeds, and immigration is opened. He will lose one population because of that. And he has a lot of food, so he decides to go for the Red Cross, builds 3 stages of it, develops the civil service, grabs the bro spots, reveals the classic army, and then destroys one of his farms to fix the uprising. Definitely not ideal, but the Red Cross will give him some culture, and yeah. And sadly, there are no reserves and such things available for him. PV4 took all of them away, and that means that he could not really prepare for a war with one cavalryman and 2 air forces, because he just has not enough resources for it, and because of that he maybe went for a little bit of a peaceful play, but he doesn't spend any resources, meaning that he might still go for a war, maybe not at the next turn, but then at a turn after that. Bram seeds, and a prosperity is opened, so some additional food for everyone. Bram builds 1 stage of the Red Cross, thanks to the prosperity, also can still increase his population. Takes the oil, which is of course nice technology with Marie Curie, meaning also that he goes up to 9 science production. We have now the science production, so I might have to increase my science when I want to win the impact of science. And also, Bram takes the Manhattan Project. He has big resource production, he has missed out on the air forces, so I think that's a very nice pick for him. This turn I see the impact of wonders, and I am just not the weakest, and I'm very happy to just not be the weakest, because the refugees are revealed, and PV4 gets hit by that. Bram just seeded as the weakest, now got strongest, so that was lucky timing for him, and yeah, of course a little bit unlucky for PV4. And I am definitely happy to not be part of this. This turn also was relatively clear for me what I want to do, because the spaceflight will be quite a nice one. Also the internet could be nice, but I'm not it's not for certain that I will be able to build another computer that I can spend those resources. Might be need those resources in my military, and the spaceflight will be a nice wonder for me in the mid-20s probably, from the culture, so should be a nice wonder for me. And also what is very nice is that after building 1 stage of the Red Cross and finishing the Red Cross of AaronGreen and upgrading 1 warrior to a rifleman, I actually can get out of corruption. So I have now a nice wonder, and I still am relatively nicely prepared for military, because I can develop military theory and air force at the next turn. Or actually I can't do this, but I can develop the air forces at least and go for 2 air forces. And that should be more than enough to defend, unless there will be some additional resource revealed before AaronGreen's turn. And yeah, so I hopefully should be safe from a war. I have nice wonder, I still have nice production ongoing, and yeah, hopefully that will help me to score a lot of culture at the end. And I could do something else, but I can't really invest too many resources into something that apart from my military. So yeah, I think picking the spaceflight here is very nice. If I don't pick a wonder now, and it's not for certain that I will get one of those at my next turn. Sadly, I do draw 2 tactics. I mean, the modern army might still be nice if I should get the tanks, but I definitely would have preferred to get to get another impact. But I also did only draw 2 cards, so I can't really complain. Then PV4 opens the freedom of movement, which is always an interesting event, and he increases population. Sadly, he lost 1 population due to the refugees, and I think he lost the swordsman with that, and he placed reserves for food, builds another arena, and placed the reserves, builds 1 cannon, is the strongest now. The strength is very close, and with his last civil actions he just takes the endowment, could take some more yellow cards from here. So it's interesting that he picks the endowment for 3, but he might get some culture out of it, and maybe he has just things that he might not have that important things to do with the other yellow cards, but of course it could be an idea to grab Urban Growth and Revolutionary Idea or something like this. And we can also take a look at the culture, relatively near at the end of the game. We can see that it is still very close, and yeah, all of the players have still chances, but I and Bram definitely have the big advantage that we have a Wonder, and we also have quite a strong economy, so we should be quite nicely prepared for impacts. Green grabs Steve Jobs for 3. He definitely helps him quite a lot with his happy faces. Also, he can use him immediately to develop the organized religion, takes the tanks, takes the revolutionary idea, takes the fission upgrade, and then increases his population. Also use the freedom of movement to get another cavalryman, so the next turn he could go for air forces and build 2, so I have to be careful about that. Bram seeds and opens the popularization of science, a nice event for me and for Bram. We gain the most culture out of that, and PV4 only gets 2 culture out of it. Then Bram goes for the strategy, plays the reserves for resources, builds another opera, so a little bit greedy maybe, or at least it seems greedy, but then he takes a lot of cards, and that actually makes it very likely that the age will end, and maybe he thinks that I also have an interest in that the age will end, or that PV4 has an interest, that at least one of us is interested in age will end, to be to not have to face war from AaronGreen, or to not be too concerned about military. So yeah, he is maybe playing it a little bit greedy, but he still has some resources with the engineering genius and the reserves. But yeah, it's maybe a little bit greedy because PV4 also has a little bit of strength potential. This turn I see the impact of progress. It was the question if I want to see it. First of all, there are 2 impacts in the deck that I played, the impact of science and impact of balance. And I could still increase my farm, so if the impact of balance is revealed, then yeah, I can't get I would miss out on some culture. On the other hand, I maybe don't really need to do this. Instead, I can just go for more culture reduction or something else that is useful. So if the impact of balance is revealed, it's not that bad. And at the moment, I would win the tie against Bram with the impact of science. So it would be nice if this would be revealed now. Yeah, but I just wanted to see it to be able to maybe see it again at the next turn. And yeah, so I see that impact of progress and the impact of happiness is just not that great for me, and impact of progress is also a little bit dangerous. I will be able to go for the military theory, and I also thought about I will go for a turn where I can then also go for fundamentalism at the next turn. But AaronGreen is very strong at this impact, and there are still the satellites. PV4 probably won't take them, so AaronGreen could go for the satellites, and then he would have a very big progress, a lot better than my progress. But the thing is that I really thought that the main contenders for the first place in this game are Bram and me, because we have both the Wonder. Bram has a very strong economy, the biggest cultural production at the moment, and we both have already more culture than AaronGreen, who has not a Wonder, and also PV4 will only have a similar amount of culture after all of our turns have been ended, so and he has no Wonder, is not that nicely prepared for some impacts, especially the impact of science that will be revealed relatively soon. So I thought that Bram will be the main contender, and the impact of progress probably or very likely will be better for me. Only if it will be revealed before my next turn, then there could be that it will be better for Bram. And if satellite should be available for Bram, then it's still not likely that he will go for it, because he can go for the democracy, which also would improve his impact of progress a little bit, but not by that much. And of course there's still even the chance that I might get the satellites, but I didn't really count on that and still wanted to see the impact of progress in. Then the impact of balance is revealed, meaning that I don't really need to increase my food production, and also meaning that I have to find a way to increase my science production to be able to win the impact of science. For that I can use the freedom of movement, and this turn was a little bit awkward, and I'm not sure if I did the right decision here. First of all, I put one worker from coal to computers. That definitely makes sense, getting one more computer very cheaply The additional science will help me to go for military theory this turn and for rockets and fundamentalism at the next turn, or even satellites and fundamentalism at the next turn if satellites should be available. And yeah, and I also have still enough resources to build one theology. There's one problem though, and that is that I like this. I'm still have corruption. Of course, I can't fix my corruption easily with increasing my population. However, there are some things that I really want to do, and that is to take all of those 3 cards and develop the military theory. And it's not, yeah. The thing is, I thought that it should be nice to end to make sure that the game will end, because when AaronGreen goes for 2 air forces, that will be plus 26, 71. Probably I could set myself up for it, but I just thought against Bram with this big culture production, with this strong economy, it's better when the age will end immediately. Although of course AaronGreen might go for a war against Bram, but I just thought ending the age might be better for me. But PV4 of course could also still go for a war. He has the patriotism in the reserves, meaning he has 15 resource available, and also military actions with the patriotism. So he could, for example, build 3 cannons, which would put him at plus 15 from the tactic, because one tactic will be with air forces, and plus 9 from the units, so at plus 24, meaning that he would be at 60. But I definitely can defend against this. So that's first I thought it will be no problem, but there is one very small but risk, because PV4 could have a hybrid war and he could have the mechanized army. There's actually only 1 copy of mechanized army left, so that's very unlikely. Both of those cards, there's only 1 copy of both of those cards left after I have drawn one of the mechanized armies. But if he has this, then he can go for with the patriotism and the hybrid war, which would also cause quite some issues with me having not the most happy face, especially when I lose 2 yellow tokens after the end of the age. And then PV4 could go for 1 cannon, 2 cavalrymen, reveal the tactic, and it would be quite a lot of strength. And even in this case, I might not even be the player that gets hit by that war, but it definitely could be. Maybe it would go against Bram. It's a very unlikely scenario, but there is one way how I can just eliminate the scenario, and that is when I NDH, because then PV4 will lose the cavalryman and it won't be in danger anymore. Maybe I'm playing just way too carefully, and maybe I should just take that risk. But at the game I choose to not take that risk, and so I wanted to do something with basically 2 civil actions, and so that I'm still able to grab all of those cards. One option would also be to develop the fundamentalism instead of the military theory, but the 2 science actually would be missing quite a bit, would cost me culture for the space flight. And also if the impact of progress should be revealed, then I definitely rather would like to have the military theory developed. So the problem that I had with this turn, like this, I will have corruption now, because I take all of those cards and develop the military theory. We can also take a look at this. So I develop the military theory and take all of those cards to make sure that the age will end immediately after my turn. So I will have corruption, but I still have enough resources to finish the space flight. There's one thing that I didn't like about this turn, and that is that my harmony is now not as great after I put 1 coal into the computers, and I am not able to fix this at my next turn. And when we take a look at Bram's turn, he has nice harmony, PV4 has nice harmony, AaronGreen has no nice harmony, but he has a lot of repopulation. He could potentially prepare for nice harmony. So it is very likely that the impact of harmony is in, and I didn't really like this about this turn. So the alternative that I thought about was to use the freedom of movement to put a religion into computers, and then I can increase my population and build 1 theology that gets me out of corruption and leaves me with just enough resources to finish the space flight. And then I would have a better harmony, but I would have 1 culture production less, because this 1 religion would be in computers. So I would miss out on 2 culture for sure, but my harmony would be better, which would be plus 4. Also the impact of industry would be better for plus 2. But on the other hand, also there is the impact of population that definitely could be in there, and that would be worse with the other option. So basically the impact of pop and the impact of industry, both impacts I think are relatively similar likely. it's relatively similar. That those could be in the deck. So then it's 2 culture for sure against potential 4 culture from the Impact of Harmony. And here I chose to go for the 2 culture for sure. But it's so likely that the Impact of Harmony would be played if one of those players has drawn it, that I maybe should prepare for the Impact of Harmony. And maybe I also should just increase my population with my last action, and then instead of taking the multimedia, and then I could build another farm or mine and finish the spaceflight, prepare for a harmony, for the potential Impact of Harmony, and also get 16 culture reduction. But as I said, if I do this, then there would be a very small and very unlikely scenario, but possible scenario, that PV4 goes for a hybrid war against me. And yeah, in the game I choose to eliminate this danger. One other option that I thought about was to put a knight into computers with the freedom of movement and then reveal the positional army. But then, sadly, I don't have any colonization card and I could not defend against an aggression from AaronGreen. So that was the problem there with this option. If I would have some colonization cards, maybe I would choose this option. Yeah. So I'm not sure about this turn. It looks a little bit ugly and I didn't feel too great about it. And maybe it is just worth it to take the risk. It's so unlikely that BV4 has the hybrid war and the mechanized army, and probably I overreacted to this very small threat. Yeah, but at least I can finish the space flight. Hopefully the Impact of Progress won't be revealed before my turn, then I can go for fundamentalism, and it will be very interesting to see where the satellites will be. And one last word about this turn. The reason that maybe even decided, let me come to a conclusion, which option I want to go for, is that the 1 culture reduction war actually might make a difference for a potential impact of culture. Because PV4 is at 15, he can't build another bread and circuses. Of course, he can easily go for another religion. Also, Bram will finish his wonder, then he will get another one for his impact of not his impact, his international tourism. So it might make not, maybe it will not make a difference at the end, but it could be. So that actually was the point that made me go for this option instead of the other one. Not the only point, but after seeing this, then basically decided to go for it, and before that I wasn't really sure. And yeah, but maybe I should just not take the multimedia and increase my population, but of course it could hurt quite a lot if PV4 should go for this hybrid war. Sadly I don't draw another impact, but at least 1 colonization card. Although I do not really need it to defend against AaronGreen. The impact of science is revealed. I am prepared for this. I put 1 more worker into computers. Then PV4 goes for mechanized agriculture, so it might be that the impact of agriculture is in the deck. Goes for 2 upgrades, place reserves for food, increases population, place the patriotism, builds 1 more cannon, and is now the strongest. AaronGreen seeds, and economic progress is revealed. That player was played by PV4, and that actually, with that, probably PV4 would not have gone for a war, because he would have known that there could be an economic progress revealed. And yeah, the 2 additional resources of course mean that I can now prepare for the impact of harmony. However, the other players gain quite a bit more out of it, so at the end I'm not sure if it is really a good event for me. AaronGreen goes for the bro spots and for tanks, scoring some culture with Steve Jobs. Builds 1 bro spots, upgrades 1 of his religions, and then goes for another bro spots, also builds a mine, is also prepared for impact of harmony now. Bram seeds as well. I was hoping to see no impact of progress, and indeed there is no impact of progress, and this timing is definitely nice for me. Well, maybe not that nice, but it's a nice impact. One of the impacts that is a little bit better for me than for Bram. And also Bram could increase his impact of architecture at his turn. He can go for democracy, he will finish the Manhattan Project, and then he builds another opera. But actually, at least the turn that he did now, he does not increase his impact of architecture, because he also will destroy 1 of his labs to build a religion. Now that the impact of architecture is out, impact of science is out, impact of balance wouldn't be influenced by that anyway, but it's also out, so the religion should be better. But if the impact of architecture would not be revealed, maybe he wouldn't have done that. So, no. And probably it wasn't even that nice of a timing, but I was happy to see that there's impact that is not where I'm a little bit better equal as Bram, because he is nicely prepared for quite a lot of impacts. And he also didn't take the satellites, meaning that I can even go for the satellites if I want to. And the 6 additional culture for the impact of progress are just very nice. So I went for the satellites, went for the fundamentalism, I can finish the space flight for 26 culture, and then I can increase my population. But sadly I'm missing 1 civil action to build a farm or build a mine for the impact of harmony, and which, yeah, as of course said, that 1 civil action is missing for that, but still I think just satellites and going for fundamentalism and satellites has to be the correct turn here. Then PV4 goes for the endowment, increases population, builds 1 more religion, destroys the lab, builds 1 more air forces, so he prepares for a potential impact of strength, and also for a potential impact of culture, because he increased his culture production. Sadly, with building this religion, he actually, maybe he only built this because of the impact of culture, because he could also even go for another military unit to have a potentially even bigger impact of strength, to be stronger than Bram. That of course I would like to see, but yeah, maybe because of the impact of culture, he goes for the religion. I think it also gave him 1 additional happy face, so yeah, it definitely makes sense to build this religion, and even without impact of culture in mind, it could maybe it would still do the same. And then before the final impacts, we can see that I am at 190, only 3 culture before Bram, and AaronGreen is a little bit before PV4, so it will be very close between Bram and me, and very close between PV4 and AaronGreen. And the impact of progress is now quite big against Bram, but Bram also has some nice impacts, so that will be very close now. First impact is the impact of wonders that was played by me. It's the same for me and for Bram, and it's also very similar for AaronGreen and for PV4. Then I was very happy to see the impact of technology, because that's one of the best impacts that I could see that I did not play. Plus 8 culture against Bram, so I have now an 11 culture lead, and it's also a nice impact for AaronGreen, who probably seeded this impact against PV4. Then there's the impact of industry, so that's plus 9 for Bram, and or plus 5 compared to me, and the same for AaronGreen and PV4. But then there's the impact of progress, plus 24 culture for me, only plus 12 for Bram, and also a big impact for AaronGreen against PV4. So now I and AaronGreen have now quite a big lead against Bram, and AaronGreen against PV4. But there are still 2 impacts left. Then there is indeed the impact of harmony, so it was correct, or probably correct, that I thought that it should be quite likely to see this impact. And that makes Bram catch up 4 culture, and all of the other players have 20, I have 16, and then there's 1 impact left, and this impact is the impact of strength, and so sadly Bram is able to overtake me by 1 point and finishes the game before me, and AaronGreen is able to finish the game before PV4. So very, very close ending, very close. And yeah, actually, because Bram has a lot of nice impacts, I, after ending my last turn, thought that I probably will end up at the 2nd place, of course still with some hope for the 1st place. After seeing the impact of technology, I had really a lot of hope, but sadly the impact of strength is in there, and that is enough for Bram to overtake me. So yeah, of course there are a lot of things that could have made a difference. Probably I was too careful and overreacted to this potential hybrid war threat. So if I maybe should have, if I would have increased my population, then I would have been able to build another mine or farm, and that culture would be enough to win me the game. Unless PV4 goes for hybrid war against me. But that's probably, that's such a small risk, or such it's such so unlikely that I probably overreacted here. Also, of course, if PV4 would have had one single point more of strength, that also would be enough for me to win the game. Yeah, but I think a lot of things also went right, getting the space flight, even getting the satellites. So yeah, I think yeah, I also am happy about my second place here. And yeah, at the end, I actually when going into H3, I didn't thought that it will be that big of a difference between some of the players. I thought it might end up very close unless maybe there's a big war. But with getting the spaceflight and with also having some nice impacts, also thanks to the strategic territory, I was not able to get a war out of that, but at least I had some nice impacts, which made it able for me to seed every turn, get some culture from that, and in general get some nice culture into the deck. So I think the strategic territory probably was the right choice there. And yeah, and at the end, PV4 was just not that nicely prepared for some impacts. Of course, Impact of Science was quite bad, and he also didn't get a Wonder. Yeah, so at the end there was quite a difference. Yeah, so quite a close game. Of course, I would have liked to win this game, but the second place is also fine. It's still a nice result. And also we can take a look now at the standings and how the standings are now after this game has finished. And we can see that I am still in the lead with 14 points, so the second place is still some amount of points, and also finishing before AaronGreen in PV4 is very nice. So I'm in the lead with the win. Bram is at the second place at the moment with 10 points. AaronGreen and PV4 are now both at 7 points. Pascal Tobias at 6 points, but he also has one game left, so he is also still in a nice position. And Fightrick and Snellsane both didn't have the best start, and yeah, so both of them probably now have to yeah, fight against the relegation. Yeah, so I'm still very happy about my position in the league. It was very close at the end of this game, but the second place is a fine outcome for me, and I still have a very nice position to maybe being able to advance to the back to the Grandmaster division at the end of the season. Yeah, so I hope it was an interesting game. The next games of the International Championship might take a little bit of a while because it are 4-player games and they are not in H3 yet. But yesterday, I think even 2 days ago, no, yesterday, I think, the games of the World Championship started. So maybe one of those games will be finished relatively soon, and that also, of course, will be very interesting. Yeah, and with that, yeah, I hope it was a nice video for you, and then have a nice time and see you in the next video.